talking
Zoom
about how
was.
we should be able to get through this pretty quickly. There are two things Jen and I talked about that have not, there's a lot of things. The WHRC is still a relatively young group. And so these kind of organizational things are still evolving. And I may not know people to tap for speakers for programs, but organization is something that I'm used to doing. You do communications. I do a lot of communications through the organizations I run as well. But what we're hoping to do is sort of put together a framework for the year and also a framework for how all the different kinds of programs are promoted so that they really do, people really do know about them out in the community, and less dependent on word of mouth, the people that are ordinarily there and come to everything. I mean, that's how I got involved. It was because I knew some people and I heard of some events and I would see them at the events, and then I found it very appealing. But the thing that we have to be also careful of is that we don't overburden, because even though we're up to our full numbers, you can't have too many giant events because there's just so many of us and we all have jobs and lives and families and the like, even though I'm going to soon be semi-retired. So.
I would say another agenda item for me is, I mean, I know we said like a framework for how to communicate our events, or like, you know, I would like to kind of come away with this with a couple tactical things, and not necessarily this meeting, but like something we work on is we used to have a calendar, sort of. It was just a Word doc that kind of said like, here's upcoming events that we know of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was placeholders sometimes, but just even having like a list, and whether that's saved
Yes.
on a Google Drive, you know, wherever, but something we can go out and refresh. And then if we add an event or add dates to it later, but if we know we're going to have a placeholder for, we're going to be at Festival by the Lake, but we don't know what date that is yet, but we know that sometime in June, like we have Festival by the Lake on the calendar. And then we can add dates, you know, as we go, and kind of make it sort of a rolling calendar or a rolling thing.
Do we want to go month by month and fill in the big things and then figure out what is realistic to put in between them?
Yeah, sure. And then the other thing I wanted to, so that's one, sort of like the yearly calendar. So I think that we're talking about two different things, right? Like I'm thinking, let's come up with something tactical, like a guide paper, you know, like it doesn't have to be major, but like something we can say, here's our either annual or just for this year upcoming things that we have on the calendar, right? And then for in between those bigger events, and I think that's where what you're kind of saying, Sherry, makes sense to think about, like, where do we have gaps? Is to think, even if we don't have an event in May or whatever, is May a heritage month, or is May whatever, like what can we post? And then and even like, I mean, I would love to go potentially even like look at some major, you know, a calendar that has like all the holidays, you know, that everyone celebrates, and just say, do we want to post something in honor or memory or recognition of this date? And we don't have to have like, you know, I'm not envisioning we have something for every single day of the year, but like if we have 3 or 4 posts a month or something that we think are relevant to human rights or civil rights things, then we shouldn't. My big thing was like, I feel like we missed a couple things when everything was so crazy, and you know, several other members who were in charge of our Facebook page before kind of, I think, kept more on top of that in the past. And so I don't have like a calendar to reference or something to like remind me like, hey, we should go post about Transgender Day of Remembrance, or we should post about, you know, whatever. And I think that's something we need to talk about as a subcommittee, is what are those things that we should be recognizing.
Commemorations.
And like, I get real weird, not real weird, but I think there's could be things about like religious holidays. Like if we say like, this is the start of Ramadan or whatever, are we saying that, you know, I think we recognize the beginning of Hanukkah this year, but then we, you know, we also did a quick post on like Merry Christmas for those who celebrate. So I think we just need to make sure that if we're doing things on religious things, and I think we do, it's in our mission is like, you know, religious inclusion, or that's one of those protected areas, then we should just make sure that we're not being too lopsided or things like that.
And that's going to take, it won't take a whole lot of research. And there was even a story last week on NPR, and there's a woman who actually, I don't know if you've heard the story. She's responsible for 1,700 commemorative days.
That's too many.
She's had that many copyrighted, and some of them aren't,
Oh yeah, it's like National Hot Dog
just
Day.
light things.
Yeah.
But some of them were really, I mean, things like, I don't know, there's probably something in there like National Help an Elderly Neighbor Day, that kind of thing, and if we could just even be the group that raises the profile of these kinds of commemorations in the community, so people will see there's more to us than those big events, and that we're helping people become just aware. So it's an awareness campaign.
I think there's like a Random Act of Kindness Day or something like that. Something we could totally get behind and like post about.
So here's a thought. Does the town, and I apologize for not knowing this. Is there like a community calendar that the town posts where every organization in the town can also post kind of like what they're doing? So if we had access and started with our big group and then worked backwards and said, okay, this school group's doing this, or this community group is doing this, and then fill in those. And then we can kind of go in and look at there's an actual website called Days of the Month.
Yeah.
And it's got them all. And then we can kind of go back and like sift through and pick that way. But at least we're starting with ours first. Everybody else in the community that we can support that might be doing something for, like you said, maybe National Help an Elder Day, maybe one of the senior services in the town are doing something, so we don't have to recreate the wheel. We can just kind of cross promote with each other that way.
So on the library,
there's a town calendar. It's not that well maintained though.
Right. Yeah, and like the schools and stuff don't probably post. They post to their own school calendar, so we might have to cross-reference a couple of places. But there is a community calendar. There's the library calendar, but then the library also maintains the community calendar, which anybody can post their events to. So if certain churches want to post, or or synagogues or whoever, religious institutions want to post things there. If Main Streets want to post, their things. If the Independence Day Committee wants to post stuff about the parade or the fire, all the events that they do, anyone can submit things to be posted, and those will be posted in there. But that's sort of user generated. It has to be done proactively. So I don't know that they like put things like annual things on there.
Actually,
as you go,
the calendar does have, because I've used it, has a recurring function.
Oh, cool.
So if something is traditionally held, like the library book sale, it's always the first Saturday. I used to use that calendar, the town calendar, when I ran the library's website, the books, not the libraries, but the Friends website. And I used to use that calendar, and I used to post those kind of recurring things.
Right.
So
whereas things like, we always are going to have an International Women's Day. It falls on a different day every year because it's based on our scheduling. So it's a little different than like a holiday or an event that falls on a certain day of the week, like the first Saturday of whatever. So, I think that's definitely a place we can start. And we can even start by looking ahead at the community calendar in January and for this year. I just don't know how far out. I pulled it up on a second screen so I can be looking at that.
Yeah, our big event in January is from Martin Luther King Day.
Right. So Sherry, do you want me to pull up like just a Word doc and start making a list of, make a header for January and then days?
Can we create a piece of paper calendar? Are we allowed to?
Oh.
Are we allowed to do what?
To create a Google Calendar, because sometimes if you create a Google Calendar and we share it with everybody, when we put something in, we can put in like add comments or add notifications or things like that, or even a spreadsheet you can do that with if it's in Google Drive.
So I think that's where we have some of the concerns about what's being done during an open meeting, and if we're collaborating on a document outside of a meeting like this where it's public. then that's the concern with those, which is why we've had such trouble with like, where do we store our documents?
Right.
Because it could be used as a collaborative place, even though we just want a place to stick it up and
Right.
pull it down
Right.
and work on them. But I mean, I think we could, I don't know about a Google Calendar.
Why not?
I mean, I can just pull up a
we use,
document that we can.
We use Google Drive, don't we?
No, I think we.
Why don't we put that on the agenda for the meeting for this month, and if not, we keep a Word document, and if
Right.
it is something that we can do without, within the rights that we have, then that's great, but we can do, at least this way we can kind of look into it, because that might be the best option if we can do it.
Are you saying just for the HRC commissioners to be able to use that calendar, or for like make it public somehow?
Well, I would imagine the calendar would just be for us, although we could if we had it, we could go in and add these events in Facebook, and then they would be
Right.
shared.
Or we could even say like, reminder, post about XYZ, and then the person
Right.
in charge could post about Random Act of Kindness Day or something like that.
Right.
But we shouldn't have to, I'm trying to remember the name of that program. You don't have to post individually in every single place. There's a way to link everything. So if you put something up on Facebook, it will then show up on LinkedIn, and will show up. You choose what
We
other
use
things you want to
Right,
show
but
up.
I don't think the HRC has a LinkedIn or.
No, what I'm saying is it's just, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. Of course, it's on my desk at my office where I hardly ever go. But it's a way of not having to individually post in every single different place. If you, so if you
Right.
have,
I just think we only have one place at this point, other than our website, which we have to get somebody else to do. We have to get John McDonald to do that for us. So
it's really
right
just
now,
Facebook.
so wait a second, we have a Facebook page too, right?
we have a Facebook page and a website,
Mhm.
and the Facebook page shows up as like an embedded thing within the website. But if we want to post something to our website, we have to go through John McDonald and say, can you post this to our website? But we have the ability to post to our own Facebook page whenever we want.
And who is the administrator on that?
The Facebook page?
Yeah, who takes care of it?
So right now, Maria, myself, and Amy Rando have access. We just gave Benny access so she could be posting stuff about MLK Day, because they're having a lot of posts and they didn't want to have to go through. Same reason we didn't want to go through John McDonald to say like, hey, can you post this for us? They're running 18 days of trivia and stuff, so she's taking over that directly and posting that. So
Yeah, we should try to get those events on the town calendar too. Is there anything that would restrict us just doing that?
Submit that. So I think that's another one of those things, right? So we have this event committee who's doing things for Martin Luther King Day, but then with communications, I don't know, they're posting things to Facebook, but it's not on the MLK Day calendar. Now it's it's a virtual thing this year. So I don't even know if I could go in and submit our MLK Day event to the calendar. And I did that last year. But it was a specific date and time with start time and end time. And like, that's easy to put in. I don't even know what to, I can just make up something so we could get something in there right now, but
yeah,
I don't even know how to really code that because it gives you specific, it's like a form you fill out, like here's the event name, here's the event description, here's the start time, here's the end time, here's the contact information. So, but I think that's something we should put in if we put it in some sort of communications playbook, like any event we have, we should be posting this, to the town calendar as soon as we have the details.
And that, if we end up being able to use Google Calendar that we all share, it could be something like where the events committee puts in an event and then tags one of us, which then alerts us to put it into the towns, and then the streamlined kind of posting.
Yeah.
Assigned to Jen, post to Facebook, assigned to Sherry, post to website, assigned to Kim, post to town. You know what I mean? And maybe that would.
And I just thought of something.
And let us not forget that the newspapers also run calendars, community calendars.
Yeah. before we get too much deeper in, I didn't start taking notes. I think one of us should be taking notes on today's meeting.
Well, we're kind of all over the place right
I
now,
know,
but
I know.
okay, so what we want to create is a framework for communicating to the general public our events, and also a means for helping us tactically manage these events and the promotions.
Yeah. So Sherry, are you just confirming? Are you taking some notes? for
Yeah,
us?
those are the
Okay.
two things I just put on here.
Yeah.
And I put on here also that we are going to investigate, what was the name of that special events website you said, Days of the Year?
Yes, there's a website. There's a bunch of different websites that have the various, days of holidays listed.
Okay, yeah, and we are going to review the different possibilities to find commemorations of ethnicity, religion, cultural things that would raise awareness and that would be consistent with our message as a WHRC.
Mhm. Yep.
And right now we've identified that we have a Facebook page, we have a website, the town has a community calendar, the newspapers have community calendars. So those seem to be the 4 places right now where we can put this information because they exist. And we're going to determine if we can use a Google Calendar for the HRC.
Mhm.
So that's all the notes I wrote down.
Yep, I think that's good.
Okay, so
Yeah, very good.
right now, I hope I didn't forget anything. Our premier events is MLK Day in January, the Women's Commemoration in May, June.
March.
March.
Oh,
yeah.
March. Okay. Oh, that's good.
And I
because
think
it
that's
puts them up.
generally, I don't remember if that's an actual day. Like, is that
Oh, that's right. It was the last
that
day.
March?
The 8th, I think. I think it's March 8th.
March 8th every year, right? So
Well,
it's not like this first
actually,
month. Right?
it was one of the last things
It was
I
the
went
very
to.
last town event,
gathering.
really, until
Right. Okay, and then we
COVID.
have, in June, we have the celebration of all things diverse, all diversity. It's the Rainbow
It was
Month,
Pride Month, yeah.
Pride Month. And then October, we've introduced Indigenous people. In between, there's some major town things that we get involved with. For instance, in June, it's the Festival by the Lake. July is July. Do we get involved with July 4th at all?
No, I mean, nothing
Okay.
official.
Do we get involved with Labor Day at all? Because certainly the labor movement was a movement that was a movement commemorating the rights
I
of.
don't think other than like a Facebook post, I don't think there's like an event that we put on
Okay.
for that, or we've done in the past.
So there's
The only other thing in the summer is
events, right?
in the summer we tended to pick a couple days that we would be at the farmer's market, but that didn't happen this year. But that's sort of a placeholder maybe to say we tend to have like a booth at the farmer's market just for information.
Maybe we should maybe
that
add
can
this
sometimes
to
be
the
fall.
agenda for because I bet other people would probably remember
I
other
know.
events too,
Yeah.
Well, this is part of our problem without the like historical thing, because I was like, I know I saw, we had this list at some point, but I was like, do I have that in my email somewhere? I
and the last year looks so different. It's like, so, and I bet you there's that as a collectively, as a group, people will be like, what about this? What about this? What about this?
And of course, this year, one of the things that we have found very valuable, and it's more than a filler, is being able to read to people. But the readings should be tied to some sort of commemoration of some sort. And that is an easier thing to do. It's much less labor intensive than putting together a major event with multiple parts. If you have certain, and of course I say we should always work with the library when it comes to that, because, why reinvent the wheel? They have the list of everything. So with knowing these things that we've been talking about, what would be our next step? To actually put together a list of possible commemorations? I know we have to
Ooh, I
find out
found
about whether we can use Google, but would that be our next step? And
I
we
did find
also,
an
I
old
think,
document.
should really come up with, it doesn't have to be lockstep, but whenever we have a major event, it should be promoted in a particular way.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, in a certain sequence. I know, like when I have clients do their continuing education program, there's a date that the first official designated broadcast goes out. There's a follow-up date. There's text. It's a schedule. There's posting in other places on a schedule. And I think that it would help us too, rather than each time going, oh, what should we do?
Right.
And that
Well-
isn't necessarily the strong suit of the people who are organizing the meetings.
We could come up with like a matrix that basically is like a guide. Like if it's coded this way, this is how it gets marketed. Meaning like if it's an official WHRC event, it gets promoted on these channels. If it's a, this color coded event, it means it's a town event and it gets a post to the
Right.
Facebook.
We just cross promote it somehow on our Facebook
And if it's a
page or-
third one where it's another town organization, it's either an engagement like a like or a comment or something like that. So there's like, and then again, if we get to use that calendar, it can easily be like assigned to, and that kind of thing.
And I'm thinking that if
I
we
like
can
that.
come up with some frameworks that, of course, you always can tweak them, but some
Mhm.
frameworks that they can keep using, like even spreadsheets, something. It wouldn't be so difficult and chaotic because we have some creative people, very creative people on the commission, but this is not the kind of thing that they necessarily want to do. They want to plan the events.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to disparage anybody. I just happened to be looking at the calendar when we were talking about it. I'm like, oh, our MLK Day event is not on the community calendar.
Yeah.
If that's not on, if we have like a program checklist of like, whenever we're running a program, we need to have these, this matrix or whatever to say, have you put it on the calendar? Have you posted something on Facebook?
Yeah.
Have we submitted something to the town paper? Have we submitted it to whatever patch, whatever. So I think there's all these things that we don't know about.
Like, 3 weeks out, 6 weeks out, 1 week prior, just give them some guidelines of when it would be a schedule for doing that. And, I'm so used to using things that I can schedule automatically. You all are too, and don't have constant contact or something like that for the WHRC.
Well, and that's the thing, like I've never seen our email interface. I know we have a mailing list. I know it was always a kind of a bear to get into and use and maintain the list of because when we used to be out at the farmers market and different things, we'd say like sign up for our mailing list and people would sign up. And so somebody, when it was never me, like I would collect the list and hand it off and somebody would add them to our list. And so when we do have big events, we can do a blast, but I think it's, as far as I know, it's fairly clunky. That's what I've been told. But then I heard that I thought the town was upgrading something. So I don't know if it's gotten better. But I don't
That would be key.
have access.
If we could do a monthly newsletter, or like an email newsletter, that would
quarterly.
be, or yeah,
To start.
I mean, monthly. Here's the thing: if whatever system the town has can be, we can create a really basic template. That's just the next event, what's going on, and like a spotlight of some kind, and that would be a super easy thing to put together, and it would maintain, because if you don't send email blasts enough, people just forget and then you end up in spam. So if we could at least do that, like you said, bare minimum quarterly, that would be awesome.
Yeah. But does the town even do we even have access to a system sending blast?
That I don't know. And I don't even know how much Maria, I mean, I know Maria inherited the access codes to it, but I think she did send out something as chair. I'm thinking it might have still been Rich when we did the International Women's Day, but I'm trying to remember if we got an email on like our Pride Month stuff or something like that. I think we might have.
Yeah, I mean, I have very occasionally received information before I was on the commission, but it was very erratic.
Right.
I mean, I didn't necessarily know that
That sounds about
something
right.
was happening. Yeah, and I don't, frankly, I never look at Facebook. I mean, I just am not
Because I'm
interested
like,
in Facebook. I have a Facebook page. I have 69 cousins on there because my husband has a huge family, that's it. But I don't look at Facebook, and so that if that's the only place things are being placed, we have to do some more push marketing. That's the whole thing. We have to do push marketing. It can't all be this passive, you have to come to us.
Well, especially if so Facebook, the way the algorithm works is it purposely holds back posts from branded pages because they want people's timelines to be filled with friends and family. So if you don't have a super active Facebook page and your posts don't have a ton of activity on it, they never kind of get past that algorithm. So it's like you're kind of posting dead air. But even having a system that way where, like, if something gets posted, everybody that has a personal account like it, at least getting it
and if
past
you share it, it gets huge, way more views. So like generally whenever we post something on our Facebook page, we'll try to like share it to the community group, share it to the mom's page, share it to whatever else that we're part of. Like we just posted the MLK Day art request, and so my kids are part of like a 3rd grade at Woodville, or like I'm part of a parents of 3rd. So I was like, I'm a fellow parent. I'd want to know about this. So I posted in that group because I'm part of that group. But if you're in the 2nd grade at Woodville, I can't help you because I'm not in that group.
Right. But that's huge.
Yeah.
And those groups are crucial in this town. All of those groups are very, very active. So if we're not, but again, I think it's just that people don't know. So if we have kind of, like we've been saying, a protocol of sorts, or here are the steps we need to take. Once it gets posted, everybody like it and share it, and share it with people, and things like, and if it's an event that's our own and we can create an event on Facebook, all we have to do is all say that we're going. And then what happens is Facebook will say, oh, all these people in the same area say they're going to this, so let's serve it to more people in the area. So maybe that's, in our little list of deliverables, that's part of like this guidebook that we want to put together. Like everybody kind of needs to be active in the marketing of things, and here are some tips and tricks on how to help us do that kind of thing.
And I'm actually thinking about, and I think this is before you were on the commission, Kim, we had a meeting that had a lot of public participation early in the year. Remember that, Jen? We had quite a few people come, and quite a few people said they didn't know anything about what was going on. And I'm thinking, yeah, there are these people that are connected and belong to things in town, but then there's this enormous, the majority of people who are not, and we're not reaching them to get them more connected. And Facebook won't necessarily, I'm wondering, how can we reach the larger public?
So we're going to use Facebook, and it seems like Facebook is our most accessible tool. There are ways we can use Facebook that break that algorithm that could help at least our content get seen more. Like if, for example, we held a Facebook Live or even like a Facebook video where we invited certain members of various communities within Wakefield and did like a panel discussion, you can host that and create what they call a watch party, in which case everybody then invites their friends to go to this watch party. Facebook Live and video breaks the algorithm. Straight content posts struggle because they require so much activity in order to break that algorithm because we're a branded page. But again, if we invite the right people too, we're cross promoting every other community, then we're getting in front of their audiences and vice versa. They're getting to know us just like we're getting to know them. So it's something we could add, to think about for one of these in between months.
I'm glad you're here, Kim, because I'm unfamiliar with all this Facebook stuff.
Well, and it can be done. I bet doesn't WCAT, and I know the high schools like audiovisual and the Volks audiovisual teachers and the people who lead those departments are all kids I graduated with. So I'm sure they'd love to help, and they have the technology that could make it really cool. So maybe maybe in those downtimes where we don't have a big thing going on, we think about doing something that's like that, where it's bringing together a bunch of people to kind of, hey, all of these amazing organizations exist in the town. A lot of people, like you said, don't know about it if it's not word of mouth. Well, here we go. We're going to do a panel discussion where we introduce and get to know each other, and all of the town is invited. It would take a little planning, but
yeah, when they were doing live, they were doing the Wakefield 101.
yeah.
And one of the things that came out of those earlier discussions with the public was that we were hoping to do maybe a Wakefield 102 for those people who were here a bit longer and kind of knew what was going on, but really still hadn't connected.
Or like, you move here, you've been here a year, and now you're like, okay, now I kind of want to know what's going on, and now you're not eligible for the 101 because you've been here for more than 6 months. So
do they really limit who can come?
I think they do. Yeah. I mean, it's meant to be for new residents. That's sort of the target audience, which is why people were like, that'd be nice because I missed that when I was here. And so I'd like to go. Or, yeah, I've been here, but I didn't have kids before. And now I want to know like more about what's happening or whatever. So,
but also even just thinking about when Black Lives Matter was happening, how much of the town didn't know there was a Human Rights Commission and didn't know where to turn. So even if we figure out like, okay, and again, maybe this is what we put on the agenda for the bigger meeting. What does this look like? It's important for us to do it, whether it's a video that we put together that this is who we are, or like we said, it's a panel discussion and we invite A, B, C, and D. And maybe then that brings out the people who, like me, have lived in the town for, I've lived here for 41 years, and I didn't know there was a Human Rights Commission. So that might be a good way to bring in, newer members of the community, but also to kind of re-engage community members who maybe just didn't know before. And again, in the time when we don't have another huge thing going on, but there's got to be months where, like April, May, between April, May, and then June is Gay Pride. Maybe we think about doing something then, April or May.
Well, in April is generally when we turn over our
right
members, because at some point I know we just got the email, if we're being reappointed, we're supposed to submit by like February. So I'm assuming that decisions are made in March, I think, to be appointed before the end of the month, or at some point in April. So, which is fine. It's just that like that's sometimes a little tough timing wise. When we typically should only have 4 max turnovers, because I think there's 1 year where we have four people, and then every other year there's 2 people up. But that's not to say, there's not to say we don't do anything in April. I'm just saying that's just one thing that makes things a little tough sometimes is the turnover.
Right.
Like the continuity of who's there.
Even if it's just to meet the HRC Facebook watch party, even if it's not, even if I'm not back or for whatever reason, everybody still should meet the people on it. And again, by doing that, you're tapping the audience of every single person that's in the HRC. So therefore their family and friends and communities and connections, we're opening it up to that too. So it's just something to think about. Be a good use of the Facebook page. It would be good use of Facebook functionality that's algorithm busting. It would be a good way to kind of get the activity on the page up. and take advantage of the one channel that we have somewhat access to easily.
So this is great for brainstorming, but we got to kind of wrap up.
You gotta do it.
Okay, so for the HRC meeting, we want to put some things on the agenda, right?
Correct.
Okay. And one of the things we want to talk with them about better utilizing Facebook. Is that something we need any reaction from them or discussion? I'm only thinking of action items now. One of the things that drives me crazy with most meetings is it's just reporting out. And I think all meetings should be action item meetings. They shouldn't be reporting out. You can do that in writing.
Well, I think the first and foremost one that I think is we want to be able to create some kind of guide sheet for promoting HRC initiatives.
Yes. And we also want to create a calendar.
Correct. Right.
Right. I mean, I guess is the action like asking like, what form would you like the calendar to take? Is a document fine? Is Excel, or can we create a calendar in writing Google Docs, or like a Google Calendar? I mean, which is still might be nice to have a printable view, because I think just saying, oh yeah, we put stuff in the calendar, like I would like to see things like at a glance. So I think even if we can do a Google Calendar to like put the prompts in or remind people and whatever, I would still like to have just like, it can be something simple just for us on the back end. It doesn't have to be front facing or look pretty. But I think as we're creating that, to kind of put together sort of a
Aren't we allowed to have an operational calendar of our own?
Oh, yeah.
So why can't we do a calendar?
I think
as an operational calendar.
Oh, that I don't know. Because I think the whole issue with open meetings is, and you probably know about this better than I do, but is the collaborative nature of it. And if we're collaborating offline and not in public, then that's the concern. So if it's less about how we're collaborating and more about how we're being notified, then that's different. But if we're making decisions and saying, hey, I added this to the calendar, what do you think? Like those kinds of things might have to be done in a public forum.
Well, let's put it on the agenda and we'll find out.
Okay. And do we want to talk with people about some of their ideas for things that we might put on our commemoration list?
Sure.
And
so I think one was like what
balanced in terms of ethnicity, culture, religion.
Yeah. I mean, one was sort of the question about the bigger events, right? Like, what are things that we might be missing, or if when we're not in COVID again, like what are the kinds of annual type of things that we would be adding in as like our events, and then there's the other ones that are just the like commemorative, something to post about, something to share, something to remind people of.
And they might say, having January, March, June, and then October, although, is more than enough for big events. And everything in between.
We always have like the speaker series, right? That was something we used to always have, was the UU Church speaker series. And I think that tended to be in the fall, but I don't remember exactly.
Well, those are collaborations with other groups in town.
Right.
So we don't have to be the sole producers of these events. So commemorations, what other larger annual events or collaborations would we?
Yeah, there's 3 tiers. There's our events, then there's collaborative events, and then there's just days of, like commemorative events or whatever, whatever you want to call
I think there might be 4, maybe. I don't know. Our events,
we collaborate on, we have 4
things
big
that
ones.
We cross promote for others, like things that other people in town are doing that we're just like, hey, you know what? The Albion Culture Exchange is doing this thing. We're not part of it, but we think it's great and we think you should check it out. Right.
Yep.
And then commemorations, right? So I think
Yeah.
there's 4.
So our events, those we do in collaboration, days of events, and then cross promotions to help other groups because they have similar missions. Is that what you're saying? So those 4?
Yes. When you say
Yeah.
days of events, that's sort of like the national or
Those are
local
just
things that, like, we
commemorations.
just, yeah.
And to raise, those are awareness raising.
Right.
They could become.
Or they could just be fun.
Yeah,
you
they
know,
could
like,
become more of an event. They could be a reading, they could be something. But
right.
for the time being, let's get the calendar. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just so much. I mean, I'm thinking, I bet in this town, somewhere in this town, and I haven't seen it yet, there's a society, I think they used to be right at the big church of Buddhist, at the big stone church right on the lake. And I haven't seen,
I'm unsure.
yeah, but I mean, I bet there are, and they don't, they're cultural events, and they're, I mean, I'm very unfamiliar with Buddhism commemorations, but there isn't anything that we do that's not an obvious one, maybe, and you don't want to
Mhm.
leave people out.
I
Like you
think
said.
that's where the community, and that's where maybe, like you said, they're not collaborations, they're just kind of cross promoting, like we're promoting them. And maybe that's the thing, maybe we open up the lines of communication where if there's another organization that has something going on that they want to let us know of, maybe we make that known,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, one of the
Tag
more
us in your
obvious
event
ones
and
is
we'll share it.
the Wakefield Alliance Against Violence.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And of course, they haven't been able to have any events, but they were doing anti-bullying events. They were doing all kinds of things that were really good. I know I went to the schools and was reading to small children, and they did some really terrific programs.
Right. Well, and if we do the bystander, that, like all that kind of stuff would be part of our thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's a one-off.
Yeah. So like Wakefield Alliance Against Violence, every October they do their 5K run. So we've I think also in the past shared their event to say like support the Wakefield, so that's something that would be one of those like just cross promote for somebody else.
Right.
We're not necessarily part of it. We didn't collaborate with them on it, but they're a partner of ours and we support them. And so we would share their event.
Yeah.
And because right now I can't think of any way to fold Indigenous people into a 5K race.
Yeah.
There might be, I don't know. And I'm really glad that we are doing that for October, because that fall calendar was noticeably empty. And that is such an obvious one nowadays, in particular. Have you heard anything about, well, probably nothing, because kids are not really in school. I was just wondering if there had been any more discussion about the Wakefield mascot among the student groups, or any movement on that. I mean, the Washington Redskins are now just the Washington team. That's their name. They don't even have a football team name. They're just the Washington team. But at least it's a first step for them in terms of being a little more culturally sensitive. But anyway.
And so so we have stuff to put on the agenda. Do we have an actions in the meantime that any of the three of us need to kind of take up, like a first stab at an outline of a calendar, or
I'd like to,
like, I don't know how much we need to do collaboratively on our next, call whenever. So we should probably schedule another meeting too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that a place for us to start might be looking at these possible days of the year type of things. Because those are fun, and some of them might trigger something we'd like to do that's more than just putting it on a calendar. And maybe we want to present that and that would be fun to put together, to present to the whole WHRC.
Do we think we can have a draft of that before end of next week?
It would have to be, we'd have to have it done. Wait, HRC is not until the 19th, so it has to be done by the 14th. Is that because the
We just have
14th is the Thursday
We'd have to put it
prior.
on the agenda.
agenda,
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah, and how,
But if we were meeting again, we would have to give 3 days notice to
mm,
publicize our next meeting.
I have to
Which
tell
is why I'm
you.
saying, like, I don't know if we want to say, like, raise hands to say, I can work on, like, the matrix, or I can work on whatever, and then come back together with some things rather than trying to do it all from scratch on our next call.
Well, I would go looking for commemorations and try to put together a month by month list of different things and try to categorize them, according to like I said, ethnicity, cultural, I don't know what other kind of categories. Once I look at them, I'll be able to tell,
Yeah.
the
I think we
categories.
should do something, or maybe like code them differently, or like here are the month-long things, like Black History Month is a month-long thing, versus February 8th is
Rather
X
than
date or
days.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I think we could have both, right? So we could have the month of, and I know there's some sites that, like the Library of Congress has a website on like monthly commemorations. So, I guess even on those though, we'd have to decide, do we commemorate the start of Asian
Right.
American Heritage Month, or do we do one thing a week during that month, or so I think there's still some things to consider even within the monthly things. Is it the kickoff and the close of each month, or whatever? But then I think there's other things that happen within each of those months that don't have anything to do with the Heritage Month too.
Well, like I said, I'm willing to take a stab at putting together at least a preliminary list, and we can work on that, at least get something to start it so we can.
And I can try to think of the sort of annual bigger events that we've tended to do in the past, and kind of come up with just a basic monthly calendar of our things, if you want to do the sort of
Okay, so
national things.
Okay, so you're going to look for
We've
the
kind of listed some of them, but I can
WHRC, what we have done
pull
in
back
5
some of the
years.
some of the
So
other
sort of
things.
putting together history, which that was one of the things I had talked about, that we need an archivist because we're losing this.
Right.
What went on each year. And
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that stuff exists in the town records. You have to go through all of the minutes of the WHRC to figure this out.
Maybe. I don't know how far back we want to go. I mean, I have stuff starting from 2018, but
Let's just start anew.
yeah.
Blaze a new path. I'm happy to make a draft, like
Of that matrix we talked about.
Yeah, this
The
is
promotional matrix.
Yeah, this if it's a cross promotion, it gets this, and this. Here are some examples of what to say, how to post, kind of thing.
That'd be cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool. So we
I'd
all have
love
like
to
something to do.
Okay, so promotional matrix guideline, Kim. Jen, you're going to pull together history and events and things so we don't start, just so we know what we've done and I'll start looking on websites for monthly big commemorations and then
Monthly
individual ones that might
daily.
be
Yeah.
appropriate for us.
Great.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay,
I-
and I also
then-
have to
I'm sorry,
make
Kim.
sense of all these little pieces of paper that I have here,
Is
which I
there a
didn't
way
number.
We can put on the agenda to if I can get,
Oh.
and it could be whoever. I don't need admin access or editor access, but there's a way to give somebody analyst access to the Facebook page, meaning I can go in and see what our engagement rate is like, what pages we like
Yeah.
as a page, and things like that. That would be, then I could at least say, okay, this is why I think our numbers, you know what I mean? If I can look at it and say, this is a more effective way to promote, or this is a more effective way to do it.
So you would.
Sure. I think we should just I'm an admin. I could probably give you that access, but I think we should just
Double
I think
check,
that's something
yeah.
we should just double check, because I think that was, again, this is something we probably need to decide, like how many people on the committee
Right.
should have access. And I don't think all 11 of us should have access necessarily, because I think that's too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
but should the people on the communication subcommittee have access? Maybe, or maybe like two of us, or whatever. So
And
we have to
maybe
think
there's
about how-
roles. You
Well,
know,
the
maybe
thing
like
is-
somebody is an editor, somebody's an admin, somebody's an analyst, kind of thing.
Right.
I just think it's really important to have someone who has Kim, you're not depth
totally.
of knowledge. And right now we don't. And I think that would be such an appropriate use of your skills and talents. Because
Yeah.
I don't
yeah,
have
analyst.
those.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, and I
Oh,
think that
advertising.
we do need somebody who can guide us in better use of the Facebook page. Now, for the HRC meeting, we were going to ask a couple of questions for the agenda. We were going to report on what, we were going to tell them what we had done. And we were going to ask people what kind of format they would like the HRC calendar to take. And we're going to try to find out if we're allowed to use Google Calendar.
Yep.
And we'd like to have some input from them on what kinds of things would you like, additional things you'd like to see us commemorate in more than just putting it on a calendar, if there's some. And and that goes hand in hand with what other larger annual events or collaborations might we want to pursue.
An email list. What do we know about our email list abilities?
Right.
Okay.
And is there interest, I guess, from others to create a quarterly newsletter?
I would help you guys do it for sure, because it's everybody's number one method of communication these days. We scroll our emails multiple times a day.
Mm-hmm. It's just that we have to go by these arcane rules that
I know,
layers and layers. I mean, Jen, I still want a bulleted list of what it takes to get something on the calendar. When I looked at all the email stuff that you got to get us to have a meeting.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we need just a bulleted list of what, like do this first, then this, right. This, because I was like, I can't deal with this right now. My head is exploding.
Yeah.
So things like that. There's just, we have a lot of restrictions in how we can operate. We have to be very mindful of that. It's important that we're mindful of that, and we don't go over the line because we are a town government body. Okay, so now the three of us, we're going to want to meet again.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're not going to be able to do this and get all these other things we're thinking about getting done. These are just things we'll work on. So why don't we just plan a meeting in a month?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So we don't think we're trying to share our
first we're going to
drafts on
the
19th?
We can. Well, I think we could, but I think we're still going to have to work on it and together tweak it before we make it something we can present. It's not ready for presentation yet. But I would say that, because HRC is the 19th. I mean, just 2 weeks. There's no way we can I don't think we can pull this. I know I don't have the time right now to pull this together before the HRC meeting.
Well, I think we just need stuff I think really, we don't need the actual presentation done by the 14th. We just need the items
19th.
On the agenda.
Yeah.
For us to tell them that we're working on it. So maybe we kind of get together maybe before the HRC meeting and just kind of go through like, okay, this is what this is what we're going to talk about on this point of the agenda we asked for. This is what we're going to talk about. And then we'll kind of have a feeling for what we've done so far.
Well, I have to tell you, we'd have to start the ball rolling this week in order to have anything next week. That's the way the meeting thing goes. You can't just casually get together and talk.
No, but we have to, we can't meet this week, but if I submit something tomorrow to say we're gonna meet next week, that could be
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to have much for you by then, but I'll try.
I'm unavailable Monday night next week, but could do.
No, I couldn't do anything until Thursday or Friday anyway.
14th.
The 14th. How are you on? You're teaching still, Pam? Kim?
We don't start until the 25th.
Okay, and it's always Tuesdays?
No, this semester it's morning I have 2 classes in the morning, and then I have one from 4:30 to like 6:30.
Okay.
So they're different, and that's only 1 day a week.
Mm.
The night one.
So I can do the 14th. That's a Thursday. I don't know if that
You
works
can
for
do
you.
that.
Okay.
Yep. What time?
The earlier the better for me, like 5, 6 o'clock, or even before is fine with me.
Well, we're first going to eat dinner after this is over tonight because we couldn't. I'm working until 5, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So
I
if-
can't really do before 5, but I mean, I could
kids,
just do 5 to 6 and just keep working, and or like, keep telling them I'm working, and then be logged off, and then we can
Well,
do
no, but you have to have dinner for your family, so you could.
No, I know, but we don't usually eat before. If we meet from like 5 to 6, then we could all have dinner like 6:30, so that would work for me.
Okay, then let's plan a 5 p.m.
Sure.
on Thursday the 14th.
Sure. And I will submit the agenda back to Sherry, or get that ball rolling, get her to give us the.
Okay, and the agenda will be to report on progress on our individual pieces of the pie here.
Mhm.
I have to do minutes for this and give it to her also, right?
Well, I think you have 30 days or something like, you don't have to submit the minutes before our next meeting, I don't think.
Well, I'll forget.
Well, but no, you
I
should do
forget
it.
what we talked about unless I do it quickly.
No,
like
you should do
tonight.
it, but I don't think you're obligated to like submit those to her before I submit the request for the
Yeah,
next meeting. Or
But
something.
I'm going to have to do them tonight, otherwise I'm not going to remember with the amount of little pieces of paper I have going here. Because I know that is the first piece, that's the second, that's the third. Okay, there, I got the pages in order at least. I just didn't want to type. I've been like sitting at the computer. And it turned into a very nice day today, and I missed taking a walk. So I felt badly about that. Okay, so the 14th, 5 p.m., each of us have our little pieces of what we're going to do, and I will submit to Maria our agenda items, and I also will put together some notes for this meeting.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Very
Sherry,
good.
do we have, I mean, I know we have versions that we sent around, but the final version of the orientation document, again, we don't have a place to store it yet. So I'm just wondering if I amend the notes on that to include the details Sherry Dalton sent us about how to submit, your agendas and minutes.
That's part of the text, not part of the slideshow.
I know, but do I need to resend that out to everyone so everyone has the most updated copy of that orientation?
I think that, no, well, oh, I see what you mean.
Because if I have the latest copy but nobody else does, then so again, we need to figure out this electronic storage thing, because I could
it has to be stored electronically. You shouldn't have to constantly just send it around, because we're just all going to lose the pieces.
Right. No, I know. And that's why I always, like, I can look back at my emails, but if I have an email from 2018 and a different email from 2019 and they see different things, like, we have to have the most recent. But I like deleted the one, I don't know. Anyway.
The version number. Yeah. Which version is it? But I think it would be very worthwhile if you could, like, for everybody on the commission, like a bullet point list of if you need to call a meeting, schedule a meeting, do this. And there's a new document, I guess. It used to be you just went to Sherry Dalton, I think. And
Well, we
gave her
used to
an
just
agenda.
create our own agenda, and it was just very basic. It was a very basic Word doc. It actually had like Courier font, which I despise, but it was like it was like agenda, date, whatever. And we would just submit that and they would post it. And then now everything has, which is nice, I think they've made improvements. It's got like the town logo on it, and it's got the specific disclaimer language. This is a Zoom meeting, it's being recorded, and she creates the Zoom link for it. So it adds extra steps than what we used to do before. But I think it makes it, all the agendas now look the same out on out on our websites and
Well.
stuff on the town. So it's nice. And now we have to like go to Sherry, generate that, then add our own stuff, submit that to a different place. So it just creates a couple more steps.
Didn't you have to do something before you even can go to Sherry? It was like, there was a 2-stage process, it looked like.
So I think we go to Sherry, she gives us the agenda with the Zoom link on it, and she invites the people we tell her to invite. Then we submit the agenda on that template that she gave us to the postings website, which then the town administrator's office, which may or may not be Sherry, but I think it's Betsy's office, posts to the town calendar and to the website to like announce it for the public, because we have to have a public.
Sherry doesn't just pass it along, we have to do the 2 steps.
Yes, I think because, which I don't know why, if we just say, hey, Sherry, we're having this meeting, here's the agenda, she doesn't create the document, like she creates a blank document for us and we have to fill in the document with the actual agenda items. She just gives us the link on the agenda.
I'm still not sure what I did wrong that first time I tried to do this.
So I think we told her we were having a meeting. She sent us the meeting maker. So we thought
And I told her what the items were.
We told her what the items were, but we never put those items on the paper that she gave us and forwarded that on to the postings at wakefield.mass.us website, which goes to the town clerk's office to post publicly that we're having a meeting. So we all knew we were having a meeting, but the public didn't know we were having a meeting.
Yeah.
So we had to cancel it.
Do we have any idea?
But that wasn't clear to me at the time either. So because again, the process changed. So.
And if someone was listening in on this, we would see them on the participant list, right?
Yes, but I don't know where this record. I think the recording, they can rewatch it afterwards.
I don't. Yeah. Okay. Well,
but we would see them if somebody was watching us live.
Mm-hmm.
We would be able to see their name.
Yes. Yes. Well, I want to say good evening to all of you before.
All right.
Time
so I think we all have our.
We have our assignments.
I'll submit the next meeting.
Okay, great. This is a start. I mean, all of this is a start. I mean, the orientation was a start. Getting, all of these organizational things will make it, I think it will make it easier for everybody over time. That's the whole point, is to make it easier, to make it more consistent. And we can get more work done if we're not scrambling, searching for things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kim, I don't know if we need to ask like the whole group about your getting like analyst access or admin access, but if we want to just send an email to Maria, I can shoot that off now and just say, hey, is it okay if I give Kim access and what level should we give her?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
you don't have to
get that. We don't have to wait till the 19th for that.
Okay. Whatever works for all of you works for me.
Okay.
Cool.
Someone must get those Facebook weekly reports.
I mean, I can see them. I mean, again, do we have the rigor in place to say who's looking? I don't like go in actively and look at it, but every once in a while I do see like, oh, certain posts get more engagements, or even if they don't get a lot of engagements, sometimes you can see the reach. And so like, for example, just that post that we just made, I shared it in like 6 groups. That has way more reach, even though there's only like 2 likes on it, because people's eyes were on it,
right?
Because they saw it in other pages.
But that could help in that kind of making that guideline. If I have the backup that says, look at this post and the reach, and here's why it did well. Look at this post and why it didn't do well. We have more of like somebody having our back saying like, this is why we need to do this kind of thing. This is why this needs to be more active.
Right.
Or like I said, we just anything that at all that can increase our reach and gain greater participation and help raise the profile of the things that we feel are important for the community to consider. Anything at all that we can do would be good. Okay.
All right. Good night.
I'm fading, guys.
Okay.
Have a good rest of the week.
Yep.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Bye.